Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. But happy Friday to all of you out there. It is time for Beyond the Sim with me, Shaun Cole, and my good buddy, Billy Strange. How you doing, Billy?
Woohoo, I am great. 3.5 hours sleep, running strong. I'm sure I'm going to lose a cylinder here while the show's going.
I saw you roll your eyes as the first words came out of your mouth.
Blah. That's how I feel.
Not a great sign. Oh, well, happy Friday to you. Um, welcome to Beyond the Sim. What have you been up to? I know you've had a lot going on. Like you said, very little sleep. You look a little different today. I'm not sure
I
what's going
felt like I said, I flew a little too close to the sun.
on.
Had
Things
to,
melted.
yep.
Was that before or after the gig on Friday?
I was after.
Mm.
So,
So it wasn't cleaning up for the show.
no, I was just trying to clean up in general and I got a little crazy with the cheese whiz. I don't know.
Well, all right. It looks good. Looks good. So what have you
I'm
been up?
sure.
What have you been up to? We know you had a gig on Friday that took you out of the sim racing world, at least for that night. But I think it went beyond that. And what have you been up to?
Yeah, so we played the show on Friday. Went really well. I had a lot of fun. Really, it was a really fun show. I had never played at that particular place before. So the good crowd, you kind of know what to expect when you're the opening band. Like there's no yes, looking strange without the beard. There's you kind of know that the first part of your set, there's not going to be a whole lot of people watching because people are still talking and you're kind of the warm up. But by the time we were halfway through our set, we actually pulled people in and had a good crowd. So that's always a good sign. So, I mean, we did good there. There was, I had a chat with somebody that's a distributor that wants to do an endorsement deal for guitars for Schecter. People talk like this all the time. Very rarely does it ever come through. Same thing. There was an EMG, which is the pickups in the guitar rep there. They mentioned something. They talked to my drummer about doing stuff for sticks and cymbals, and who knows?
Right.
That kind of stuff I don't count on it.
Is that how they make their introduction, just to get a business card change going? And
Basically, yeah, because especially if they can get it on the ground level of somebody that they think could be big on a regional or national level. If they can get their hands on somebody at the ground floor, that means it's much harder to break free from them later on down the line.
Sure, sure.
Get loyalty and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. I think you see
Uh,
that in anything that like sports or music and all these entertainment across the board.
mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, it's been crazy. Just the whole week is we've turned down. We did an interview that day. Did an interview the following day. Just did an interview last night that'll get released next week sometime. We've had to turn down like 7 shows that have been offered to us just because we don't want to oversaturate the area because
Right.
it just doesn't do any good. It's no different than anything else. You want as many people as you can to go to a particular, show. So our next time that we plays was Skin Lab, August 31st in Sacramento. So you kind of have like this window where we really can't play a show in between what we just did and that show coming up because we need as many people to go to that Skin Lab show as possible.
Right.
So it's been nonstop, like back and forth, talking with other bands, like want to do shows, and it was good. It was good exposure. It was really fun. We had a great time.
I would think
And
there's a
then,
real fine line. Like you said, you don't want to oversaturate the world, right? And
right?
at the same time, you got to keep them wanting, right? So you have to
Yes.
give them, and it's like, and that's got to be a fine line to really maximize building your following, you know?
Yep. We kind of survey the area, see what other bands are doing, and kind of figure out a timeline. And you almost give yourself a radius, like, okay, we're not gonna play anywhere close within this time period. So
Right.
other than that, Then I've been, the little time that I've had left, I've been working on reviews. So got to do some driving with all of the WTCR cars now in race room. So working on
Awesome.
that review. Uh, in short, I mean, please watch it when I put it out, but they're really good. And it was funny because when I tried them to begin with, I was kind of talking about, oh, I don't really like the Alpha, the Audi's better. Well, I went through them all and noticed, like, as I was going, my lap times just kept dropping substantially with each car. I'm like, I wonder if this is me just getting used to front wheel drive cars. Sure enough, I went back to the Alpha, didn't have the same issues that I was having, and dropped my time around Zandvoort by almost 2 seconds.
Wow.
So it was literally me just getting used to how the cars work, and great force feedback. It was with my new rig. That's the other thing. I finally got, I think it's sort of just little tiny gremlins. Just, I never had this problem with my other PC that I built in this one. So it frustrates me that I'm having all these, like, oh, you got a USB problem. Oh, you got an audio issue. You got so
Just various driver. Well, it's a different world where Windows is supposed to just automatically do everything now.
oh, and you just got so many things working against you. Like, to solve a couple of my problems, I actually had to use a powered USB hub, because no matter, it was like combinations would make things not work. I'm just like, I never had this problem before with my other rig. Holy cow. So combine that, and then, working, like I said, I got to run in race room on, new CPU and a new graphics card, which was nice.
How much did it change your graphics level?
I can run everything. Before I could run everything like on high and a few things maxed out. Pretty much I can run everything maxed out now, because I'm like not doing triples or anything like that. So looks nice. Again, the cars drive really well. They're probably the best front wheel drive cars to run right now, just because of the technology that the front wheel drive cars have come up with in the last handful of years. It feels like it's made its way into those cars, because they definitely do not have that torque on throttle understeer coming off the corner as much as older iterations.
Right.
So great cars. I'm going to have a little sound comparison, because I don't know if it's the engine per se or if it's the actual audio file that they're using. But I'm going to make a comparison with some other cars that they've done, and I just feel like these don't quite have the depth that those other cars did. But again, it could be just the cars.
That's one of the specialties of Race Room too. So like when we do Sim Pizza, Race Room cleans up on sounds, so it's very important, when that's one of your mainstays. Again, that's, if people ask me, my favorite things about various sims, Race Room sounds would be one of the things for sure.
Apparently I have somebody with a blower outside.
I was gonna say, do you need to get armed or something?
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot somebody. Interesting. No, I've noticed in the last few releases, they're kind of like hit and miss, and I'm not sure if maybe they changed something or maybe they don't have the same person doing it. It just doesn't have. Some of them don't have the same. Holy cow! This guy's really going to town. They don't have the same depth to them, and it's not with all the cars. It's just some.
Right.
But did that, and then the reason why I was so tired is yesterday I downloaded the FIA Euro Truck Championship. I did not watch your stream, by the way, because I didn't want my views tainted per se. Did that. About noon, 11 o'clock, got it going. Did that for about 4 hours. Made dinner for the family. Shot off to practice to go do that interview and some practice. Got home from practice, immediately started editing, and I was up till 3:30 in the morning trying to get it on YouTube. And I like the shirt. Um,
Sorry.
so no, it's fine. I was gonna say something about the shirt actually. So I was up to like 3:30 in the morning, and you can appreciate this. So I'm editing, and I'm so tired. I'm just like, I think I've got everything. I'm not gonna watch 20 minutes again. Just render, send, go. I'm tired. Then I hate it when I do this kind of stuff. I left so to sync audio and to let me know because I record everything separately.
Right.
So in other words, I don't use a webcam. I don't use record audio on the same machine that I'm recording gameplay. So my audio is recorded on my editing PC, and then I have a camera, standalone camera
Yep, I remember. I
that
used to do.
has
I used to do
audio.
it that way. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have it all separated so that it's kind of a redundant system in case something goes wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but it also alleviates some of the load off of my gaming PC. So I do a clap for audio to sync it, and then it's also a visual indicator when I'm editing. That's where my next scene, or I made a mistake and I need to start over. That's
Yep.
where that
Yep.
starts. I left one in. Yep, I left. I'm all press record, and I'm
Uh,
like, oh god. Luckily, YouTube has an editor, so I actually cut that out now, but it takes a while for it to get back around to it.
all right. All right.
That's what I've been doing. We can talk
That
about Euro Truck
that
later.
that's a lot of week. Going back to the band thing. Question for you on the set Friday night. Did you ever miss an Apex?
Wait, what? You threw me for a loop. I'm trying to like process. Did I miss an Apex?
Did you make any mistakes during your set?
Oh, jeez. See, this is 3.5 hours worth of sleep. Uh, we had this one point. So the headlining band was filming a video, and they're recording the audio, everything. So it's like a full blown production. But the way the stage was set up, they made the drum riser way too big. So there's a stage, and then to elevate to rise the drummer up, a drum riser, they have him on like another platform on top of the stage. They made it way too big. I literally had 4 feet
You're
because
like
anytime
walking a ledge trying
oh yeah,
to.
there's another light bar that's a good 1.5 feet, 2 feet thick. So I had like 3 to 4 feet because then there's the monitors and then the edge of the stage. And I'm like, usually I move around and all this. I'm like, I think I'm gonna fall off. So my drummer had to use that guy's drum set because they didn't want anything messed up. Fine. So as I'm playing, I kind of do this turn to the left, and my bass player is right here. So I like pick up the neck of the guitar so I don't spear him in the head. And when I do this, I move a little more. And at the same time, out of the corner of my eye, I see this cymbal and stand just go and fall. And for a brief moment, my brain interpreted that as I did that.
Right.
And so, like, I'm supposed to be strumming, and all I did was just go burn and just like hold the note. And then I realized what I was doing, and so that was a little mental lapse on my part. But all the little tiny mistakes we made, nobody would ever know. We would know what they were.
Right.
But yeah, that was kind of a funny moment because it took me out of it for just a second. I almost started laughing because it was just like one of those things. You just see it in slow motion, the cymbal and the guys stand just go and just fall and just crash against the ground in the back. And all I can think about, this guy's gonna be pissed. Well,
Yeah.
apparently he was already sauced up and he wasn't paying attention to us, so he had no idea that happened.
Oh my. Oh my.
Yeah.
That's got to be weird jumping into another guy's drum set. I mean, unless you're like the White Stripes with like just a bass, a snare, and a cymbal.
It was my drummer actually did a really good job because it was probably the most opposite from his drum set. This guy, they're used to playing Trauma, I think, is the band, which is a metal band. So he's got the double bass kick drums and cymbals are sky high and the toms are all, flipped like this. And my drummer's kit is not like that at all.
Right.
So it it all around, it was pretty entertaining.
Oh, that sounds great. That sounds great. Sounds like it went well. I mean, all in all, it sounds like it went well. I mean, you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to go well. Cross our fingers. I don't. Who knows what this kind of stuff ends up doing for you, but it seems positive.
Oh my. Well,
What'd you do?
my week's been inside out, upside down, and crazy as well. Going back a week, I can't believe everything that it's gone on this week is a week. Friday night we had the truck race at Kentucky. The guys did a really good job. The track was a nightmare. The truck was a nightmare. And the guys actually raced pretty well, but we had a share of incidents and moments. I had a black flag moment that I didn't clear, and I guess I could have. No, I got caught a couple laps.
Oh, I saw
down.
that. Yep, I saw that.
And I just kept fighting my way back, figuring, you know what, we've got cautions, I'll make a comeback. And then I did, but then it put me in a desperate situation to run from the very, very back, trying to make progress on short notice. Ended up actually doing a pretty good job of that, but then got caught up in an incident that happened in front of me, and that was the end of my race. Fun night, though. We had a good time. That was definitely fun. And then I can't even remember when the next thing happened, but I had a conversation with Devin Booth. And he's like, oh, you should try out a green screen. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not a big fan of green screens. And I've always had mediocre success getting them lit right.
I have one as well.
And so I'm like, all right, what the hell? So I ordered a green screen again. I'd thrown my old one away because I just was like, I'll not do it. I don't like them. And then I set it up, and it came out pretty decent. Like, still has work to be done, but I was like, oh, this is cool. I can do some things. And he and I had talked about ways I can incorporate it into different things I do normally on the show. So
I just want to let you know that this is actually a green screen. This is not my room.
I gotta learn your lighting then. I mean, it's because, man, you don't even have a halo. And I get really hung up about that halo or little fuzzy areas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching the news today, and they had a guy there, and I'm like, oh my God, look at that terrible green screen. Because he had like a 1/4-inch green halo all the way around him. And everything
Especially when you move, like you have cameras that can't keep up.
And
when you move, it has that.
And this was a politician dude, so he's in like a suit, right? And he's got
Perfect.
like shoulders up, like just this is the frame. And they still had it going on. And I'm like, man, I probably am a little too sensitive to... If they're allowing that, then I can get away with more than I'm allowing. Had a lot... But then all of a sudden it was like, okay, if I'm going to use a green screen again, where am I going to put it? How am I going to do it? What am I going to do for my lighting? What was good could be improved with lighting. Now I need to do that. So I decided that I needed everything in my studio on wheels. Everything. So, I'm on wheels.
Even the chair has wheels.
That's on wheels. And then I built this incredible platform. Talk about a riser. I built a giant platform to hold my rig, my monitor stand, my computer, everything.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
And it's not easy to move because it weighs like 600 pounds, but it moves.
But you're Shaun the Muscle Cole.
Yeah, I just have to I do a leg press. I put my back against the wall. So I built that, but that was awesome. And then I got everything the way I thought it would be right. And it was no better than what I had. And I was like, oh, this sucks. So right now, I am not where I normally sit. I know it might look really close or similar.
You have completely fooled me.
I'm not even in the same side of the room. I'm on a completely different side of the room at this point in time. So that, anyway, it's been nuts. And then when I didn't get the results I liked, I'm like, okay, I guess I have to and then I reversed and did everything again. And then the other day, last night, when my brother got off work, I was kind of complaining. I'm like, man, I think everything I've done was a total waste of time and energy. I've spent 2 days rebuilding the studio, building that stupid platform, making my life insanely difficult. I don't know if anything even fits back into place. and the lighting's not even working. And anyway, I worked well into the night last night, and then at like 12:30, I'm like, oh my god, the lighting's perfect. Oh my god, yes, don't. And then I moved this over and I checked the lighting.
Nobody breathe.
Yeah. Oh, Scuderia Bassani, thank you
you
very much. Hey, look at that, my super thingy worked. It even did the spinning wheel. It did the spinning wheel even. Thank you very much, Scuderia. So that was that, and then beyond that, I've been trying to get ready for Spa. We have the 24-hour race starting tomorrow at 6 a.m. for me till Sunday at 6 a.m. I am 82% where I ought to be right now.
That is very specific.
Well, I've been giving it a lot of thought as I've been not turning the laps I need. So Greg's VR asked if I had any better luck with the big rigs. We'll get back to that in a minute, Greg's. Then, what else? And then Hot Lap Pump Day was Wednesday. And I don't always talk about these, but every third Wednesday is the Rick Motec Hot Lap Pump Day. This one was really cool. Robbie Unser was there once again, hanging out with us and competing with us. It's just cool listening to somebody who's been around racing and having another one of those guys just there doing a hot lap thing, because it's you never know what we're going to end up talking about. You just don't. His niece, I believe it is, Lonnie Unser.
Yep.
She came in for like the last half hour or so, and I think
nice.
She might actually come compete. She runs some Mazda MX-5 in sim, and she runs the real life Mazda MX-5.
Yes. Yep.
And then, so here's the thing. I'm leading the points in their championship.
Oh.
But there are drivers in that league that you're like, there's no reason on earth. What bizarro forces have occurred? What alignment of planets have happened that Shaun Cole leads the points in a series with Mike Dam, as an example, driving in it? And it's 100% attendance. That's it. The only reason is attendance. But it's given me a significant lead, and I'm like, oh.
Is that the equivalent to a participation trophy?
And that's the problem. And so now I'm like, you know what? I don't want it. Like, I don't even, like, can I dump the championship somehow because I don't want to participate? So, now the opposite, now I'm going to sit back up, proud. The opposite philosophy would be, you know what? I need to represent better. I need to be consistently finishing in third, let's say. Because, like, you can win a championship winning in third, right?
Sure.
That's legit. So I'm like, I got to step it up. And so the last few events, I've been really giving it a little more focus, a little more ignoring Kevin Ford and driving and then resting so that I can come back and perform, not sitting there getting all tight. So I keep missing the top three by, like, this much, but people keep not being there for the finale because it's a 4-hour event. So even though I'm in fourth, I get jumped up into the finale so that I can at least finish in third spot.
You could consider that them having like motor problems or something.
Exactly. And so a combination of attendance, top 5 results, and now getting that into the top 3. Anyway, it finished with a 3-lap race in the Cadillac at Le Mans, with me being the third fastest guy, with David Grunnell, who is a full second quicker than me, and I can't remember his name now because I'm brain fried. I'm so sorry. Oh man, I'm so sorry. I can't remember your name right now. And you won the event. Damn it, Cole.
Just make up a name.
No, I figured that will be disrespectful.
Fasty McFast Pants.
It was Simon Superfast, and he was a second and a half faster than me, or Superfast Simone. He just hounded me, and we're at Le Mans, and like a 5-lap race, and I think he could have gone around me at any point he wanted, but then I could have just drafted him and played that game. So I figured it was just kind of safer for him to just sit there. So on lap 5, I made a couple of stupid mistakes, and he got by rather easily. I did block him pretty royally. I
Attaboy.
actually talked with Robbie after the fact, like, was that too much? And then he's like, well, that first one was like a pro move, but that second one,
That was a little bit.
So anyway, it was a lot of fun, and I feel a lot better about the championship now because now I've advanced my lead even more.
There you go.
But it's like, yeah, but you know what? I'm a contender now. So anyway, it's been a really fun week.
It's in chat for you, by the way, the name.
Oh, Andrus Slissens, Tim, Spatial Dragon, you rock. Andrus Slissens. See, I was close.
Close enough.
Simone, that was what I thought. Slissens, that's right. Really good drive by him. He was awesome. And then came FIA Euro Truck Racing Championship. I want to thank Jesse Conroy, one of the pit crew, because yesterday when I woke up, he's like, so are you downloading and going live yet? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, FIA, it's out. And it's like, come on, Shaun, why is your phone not like sending you an alert being like, today is the day. If you didn't get it from them, it's time to buy and drive. Thank you, Jesse. Anyway, I did that and turned it on, and oh man, I'm so upset. My AccuForce, which is on the list of supported wheels, did not get along with the game.
I did not see that.
Yeah,
when I looked at the supported list.
It's on the list. It's got its own little heading even, because it's like, you know, here's all the Thrustmasters, here's all the Fanatics, here's the Logitechs, and then Sim Experience AccuForce V2, which is exactly what I have. And anytime I touched came off center, the game would come to a screeching halt. Like just no graphic movement. And I tried turning the force feedback off, didn't matter. Just no matter what. And then I plugged in a controller and got that working. Didn't have it calibrated. It was giving me a little extra left, but I was able to offset it and play the game. And I have to be honest, it not working. This gets back to what I'm saying more and more about some of these sims that aren't trying to be in iRacing. The game deserves better support for wheels, because I can tell you from playing with a gamepad that was going to be a fun game. So that if that was your kind of discipline, that you were going to like, I wanted my wheel to work because I wanted to race the trucks. I enjoyed what I saw. I enjoyed what I heard. I enjoyed the environment. The only thing that I found upsetting outside of my wheel not working was the UI was a little clunky. So certain things you could save, certain things you had to hit exit. It was, little weird inconsistencies in the movement, but that I really loved it. And so I'm like, wow, my wheel doesn't work. So I played, I did a full race, just the single player with the hand controller, and enjoyed doing that, but I'm not in this to play with controllers.
Sure.
So if that's the only option I have is that, then I'm not going to play it. Now I have other wheels here. Greg asked if I had any progress. No, I had to work on the studio so that I could be here today. Otherwise I would have been doing this in the living room or something.
Oh, wow.
So I did not get back to it, but I knew full well all I had to do was go grab my Thrustmaster TGT, plug it in, and it would work. The only problem is I just spent 3 days now rebuilding my rig, bolting it all to a platform, and I'm just not in the mood to change wheels to accommodate a racing game.
Sure.
Right? So when I play it, it's going to be over here, which is a single screen essentially. It's actually a double screen, but I'd only play in single. And I don't think it has any VR support at all. So
it does not.
Yeah, that's not an option. So it left me frustrated but optimistic, but it also left me thinking the exact same thing with WRC8 coming. It's like, wow, this is like the same group. This is Big Ben. Parliament.
It isn't.
Well, you're right. It's a
Actually,
different developer. So one's
developer is
KT
actually
Racing.
different.
KT Racing
Yeah,
is the group behind, and they're very
Hilton does
serious.
WRC, and this is N Racing or something like that.
Right.
That did this title, but it's under the Big Ben Publishing.
Family. Parliament.
So hey, by the way, thanks everybody hanging out in chat. I'm reading it. I'm just laughing on the inside while Shaun's talking. Well, that sucks because, by the way, I'm not going to call it a review because I didn't do everything, but it's an impressions. I got that up this morning. That's what I was talking about earlier. Go watch it, maybe.
Yes. Where am I going to find it?
Billy Strange Racing.
On YouTube. Billy Strange Racing?
Yep.
On YouTube.
So to counter your experience, my experience actually was fairly positive. I fired it up. I used, the TSPC Racer, Fanatic V3i pedals. I was using a TH8A shifter. It found everything right off the bat. I literally didn't have to, as far as making things recognized, I didn't have to do anything to it. So when it throws you into that very first race, when you fire it up, I was driving. Force feedback was way too strong, but I was driving. And yes, the great hand clapping. Anytime YouTube wants to actually put in the version that I edited that out would be great. So that was positive. It picked up my ultra wide monitor right off the bat, which was nice. Maxed everything out. It's actually got some nice lighting to it. I thought, because they've got, what's odd is I went and did time trial, and it only gives you 3 weather scenarios there, but I noticed there's more scenarios than that when you actually race. So it did clear, day, sunset, and then wet.
Okay.
But then when I went to do some of the races, they were actually, one was like in fog, one was, there was more than
right.
that. So some of the ambient lighting and the things that they've got going on, I actually think it's not amazing. It's not going to blow your socks off, but it's a nice looking title. It's not, I wouldn't say it's like ACC or anything like that. So I was actually having a lot of fun with it. I went in remapping or, changing some of my controls around to my preference was really easy. Like I didn't have any issue with it. The first thing I thought that was odd is when I went to do the time trial, the ghost doesn't disappear. It's not transparent. It is a solid object.
Oh, really? You were racing the ghost.
So when you're racing the ghost, you can't see through it until you get right up on it and then it disappears.
Okay.
But if it's even just a little ways away, most titles, if it's way out in the distance, they may be solid. But when it starts to get to where you're driving down the straightaway and you can't see the corner coming up, and these are big vehicles, by the way.
Yeah.
You can't see around it. So I thought that was really kind of an odd choice. For every step towards sim I think it also takes a step in the opposite direction. So for instance, you can take the wheel off, the steering wheel. You can eliminate the steering wheel.
Right.
But yet there's no FOV adjustments. So that, thank you on the one hand, but
right.
The other one's kind of like, well, you kind of missed this part though.
Right.
I enjoy the fact that you have to manage your brakes.
That's kind of fun.
It is, and you have to manage tire wear.
Yeah.
So I did like full races, 100%. And at first I was really hammering the brakes, and like my brake percentages were really going down and my water levels really going down. And so you can come back into the pits and put more water in your tank and then go back out. Well, then I got to the point where I learned that if I just pushed hard at the very beginning and then backed off a little, I could actually roll and not use as much brake. Thus, I don't use as much water. I can make the whole race without going into the pits.
Right. That's awesome.
It was fun learning that. Like I liked No, there's no seat adjustments. There's nothing there. You can't move. You can't put more cockpit sway in or less driver, nothing. There's no adjustments like that whatsoever. But it's got a nice array of graphical options for you. Sound is minimal, but I don't know how much you really need there. They do give you some sliders, so that's nice. But getting back to the truck, I liked the fact that if you drove in too hard, it'll push, it'll understeer, and then you stab the throttle, and because there's no weight on the back end, it kicks sideways, and then you can just start lighting the tires up. It's actually fun because you can modulate that pretty good coming out of the corner. I was actually pleasantly surprised with that.
Well, and it didn't, I've never driven a truck like that, and I've certainly never driven a performance truck like that, but it did it in this like really weird, slow, delayed way that I thought felt very appropriate. Like, when the rear end came around, it was later than I expected it to. But then when it happened, I'm like, yeah, well, I guess that's how it would happen when you're talking about a wheelbase of that length and, and a that much frontward weight. I mean, that's a really odd configuration, that frontward weight. I also thought it was really funny seeing the pace truck, the giant, like normal
big old Mercedes.
Yeah.
Okay, the announcer is killing me. He's all, and we're racing. I mean, he is so into it. I was just like, wow. I expect, like I said in my video, I expect the Kool-Aid guy to jump out at any moment.
And I also like that if you go, if you go to the out of the truck view, I've said it, the out of the third person view. When you water the brakes, steam just comes pouring out. Yeah.
If you do it at certain points with the trucks that have the flat nose to them, you can see the steam actually shoot out of the front because as you're slowing down, it shoots the water. It's little things like that. I liked. Track detail for the road itself is kind of pristine. Like, it doesn't look like it's been used, so it's
right.
It looks too
sterile.
Yeah, it's very samey looking. Like, there's not a lot of variation, so that could have been improved. But some of the off-track stuff is fine. Again, I enjoyed the handling part of it. It doesn't communicate very well when you go do the career. When you start what you're supposed to do. So I clicked on like the first tile, and you just run endless practice laps, and I'm thinking this is the race, and I'm like, so I hit, quit. It says, okay, you skipped practice, and all of a sudden I'm back out at the calendar, and I'm like thinking, I missed a race? Oh, well, that sucks. It's not what happens. The first two are a practice, and then you get to the actual races, and then you can skip practice, qualifying, whatever, what have you. The two biggest things I think it has a problem with is the AI is incredibly slow. I had it maxed out, and I'm just walking away.
I was going to ask you your thoughts on AI.
Yeah, the AI is just, I mean, they're not just kind of slow. They're really, really slow.
Now, it looked like, so from what I've seen, then it would mean that they have from slow to embarrassingly slow. Because it seemed like they actually had a huge variance. Like, they got...
No, they don't. They have only got 3.
Oh, only 3.
What's funny is, if you don't run career, it makes the 3 difficulty levels, it gives them 3 names, and then when you go run career, it gives them 3 other names. So you can't even use, if you're not paying attention, you can't even use what you were running like in a single race versus what you were running in your career.
Right.
Very, very odd decision. So I had it on professional, which was the highest that at least that I could find. And I out qualified him in the lower truck, quote unquote. It was like 6-7 seconds or something stupid. And then over the course of a 12-lap race, I think I beat first place by over about a minute.
Oh my.
Minute something. I mean, what I did was I took off in the beginning and then just kind of slowed down and held my pace. And I didn't have to worry about it. I just kind of cruised around, not needing to go into the pits or whatever. So there's some erratic behavior from the AI, kind of weird, which is unfortunate because that means even if you wanted to play, if you have, I would say, even a decent skill level, that would improve, I would say, over time with the game. You're going to outclass the field no matter what. So that's something I hope they improve. The
Sure.
other thing is obviously, like you were talking about, the wheel situation. Um, I had seen and heard that people were having problems with either getting their direct drive wheels to work, or they were having to do like large workarounds to get them to work. Pardon me. And so that's number one. That's unfortunate. That's a problem. The other thing is, if you are really into force feedback, like that make or breaks a game for you. This is probably not something to do. This is probably not something for you. I would say that the force feedback is just okay. It's not bad, but it's definitely not great. It does communicate things to you. The one thing that I found made a big difference in the slider was the suspension, because I wasn't getting any of the. I'm sorry, I just read that out of the corner of my eye. Number 7, I know a previous winner of the European Truck Championship. He's a she now. Oh, whatever floats your boat. So I wasn't getting a lot of loading of the front end, weight transfer. So I pushed up the suspension slider, and actually I started to get some of that. And so that's all I really require. Maybe a little road feel every once in a while.
Right.
But again, the road seems really smooth.
I
So
was gonna
no matter if
say,
you turn that up,
yeah, the
it doesn't
road.
seem to do anything. But man, when you hit the curbs, it was like trying to take the wheel out of my hand. So I had to turn.
Right.
I think it's the ground effects or whatever. I had to turn that down so it wasn't like trying to take off on me. I
Yes.
thought my whole
Yes.
rig was going to move all over the place. It was like bouncing all over.
Uh,
Yeah. So all in all, I had fun with it. It's unfortunate that it doesn't give me any incentive to keep playing because the AI is so slow.
right.
If the AI was better, I would actually continue to play this,
Did
because
you
I had a lot of fun figuring the truck out.
did you buy it? You bought it, right?
I bought it, yeah.
But you played it more than 2 hours.
I did. I played. I put in almost 4 hours on it, so it was fun enough when I was driving. And see, this is the difference between this and F1 2019. F1 2019 might be a superior game.
Right.
This is a much smaller team. Number one.
Sure.
Number two, I had fun driving the truck.
Right.
It was fun. It's not easy. Like I was doing the license test. Boy, talk about a throwback to Gran Turismo. I kind of liked it. I had
Yeah.
fun with that.
That looked great. I wasn't able to do it, but
It was tough. There's some of them that are pretty tough, because there's one that you have to keep the brakes in an actual certain temperature range.
Uh-huh.
And so you've got to be really mindful. You can't get them too cold and you can't get them too hot. And there's another one, like getting the braking down right is a challenge all into itself. And then yes, 5 out of 5 F1 2019.
Oh, I railed on them for
Oh.
that the other day.
So I enjoyed that part of it. Like I thought that was good. There is a difference between the world trucks and the Euro trucks. You can actually feel a difference there. I don't necessarily feel a difference other than maybe engine note between the trucks within the series.
Uh-huh.
That may be just a skin kind of thing where they all kind of have the same physics, but I don't mind that. I mean, that's not that big a deal to me, because they're not. I did not perceive it to be this hardcore sim.
Right.
I perceived it to be like they were trying to be excessively realistic. How about that?
Sure. Sure.
So I took it for what it is. The thing that kills it for me is the AI is too slow.
Yep. I didn't get to experience that yet. I will go back to it. So I played it for more than 2 hours, which means I now own it. Now it was mostly troubleshooting. That kind of took me back to the whole 2 hour thing. It's like when I finally got the thing working, I was already at like an hour and a half. And I was only playing on a controller. So it's like, wow, do I return it just because I couldn't get it running? That kind of sucks. I would have put more than 2 hours into troubleshooting. So are they going to lose out because at an hour and 59 I have to throw in the towel? Because if it still isn't working.
Yeah, I mean, that's that is their problem. I mean, it's, you couldn't get your devices working with it. So, it's the reason why I mean, I can't tell you how many messages I got from people that didn't even know you could return it in the under two, a game in under 2 hours, and it has to be 2 hours or 2 weeks.
Right.
Like if you only play an hour, like a month later, you can't return it.
Okay.
So it has to be under 2 hours, under 2 weeks.
Oh shoot, I
But
think
I
I
got
have
so many
a.
messages saying people didn't even know that they could do that, which is partly why I made the video. But yeah, I hope they patch it. I hope they fix it, because it's actually, I don't know. I had fun driving the truck, barring FOV adjustments and all this. I mean, it's slightly annoying, but it's nothing to like make me hate the game.
Right. Well, what I'm going to end up doing is sending a message to both Big Ben. I have a contact there who will kind of
Mm.
expedite things for me. And then also to Sim Experience, because again, it's a listed wheel. I should be. And I had Sim Commander try to find the game and it wouldn't. So it's like,
Mm.
well, to me, it's not supported until that happens on a wheel like that
Right.
that has an auto detect feature.
Sure.
Now there's probably a manual workaround because it's still a new title and maybe a new supported, but until that's automated, to me, it's not quite supported, because if you have to do a bunch of workarounds, even if they work, it's not quite there as far as support goes. So I'll talk to Sim Experience, try to find out from their end what I need to do workaround wise to get it running, and then I can show people. And then the other is maybe there's something from Big Ben, because again, it's listed as one of their wheels. So rather than have to put on the thrust mount, which I'd happily do on this rig, but I'd like to get back to it. I'm not done with that one. I would go back to it for nothing other than the license tests, and to just get more of a sampling of the career mode. So even if I wouldn't see it all the way to the end of the career mode, I'd like to just kind of feel it, because
I think you would have fun with it. Barring the AI problem right now, if you could get your stuff working, I actually think
yeah,
you would have fun with it.
it'd be
Is
fun.
is it worth $40? That's a hard question to answer. Jazz hands.
From what I've
It,
seen and what you've told me, if we could do 2 or 3 multiplayer races, it would be worth it. Like
I
if,
would agree with that.
get out there with a
Mhm.
handful of friends, because it seems like there's enough enjoyment to pay for a good portion of it before you get to there, by the time you're good enough to be killing the AI. And then at that point, give me a handful of races with friends, and I've gotten my money's worth out of a title.
Right.
Um, and
Brad, real quick, Brad asks, how is it compared to the truck racing on Automobilista?
ooh, ooh,
It's not too far off, but you can tell it's obviously not as complicated. And the force feedback makes a big difference with I like the force feedback in Automobilista, so I think that changes the way you perceive
mm-hmm.
something. So definitely I think Automobilista is going to be a better, more refined experience, but you're also not getting some of the more gamey elements, if you care about that, in Euro Truck. But again, the AI needs to be fixed.
Yep, yep. Awesome. All right. Very cool. Well, should we roll into the news? Is it time to talk some news?
Yeah,
All
let's
right.
do it.
All right. First news of the day, and neither Billy or I had time, but I have to mention it because we talked about the iRacing Downshift, they're calling it. This is their 5th edition of their podcast. And the reason I'm mentioning this one, because I think we mentioned they were going to do it, and I've not mentioned any of the 4 specifically prior, but Dave Kemmer is there for an interview. So anytime we have a chance to date E.F. Hutton, I'm dating myself. E.F. Hutton. If Dave Kemmer talks, everyone listens. The reason I say it is he doesn't really get out all that much. He's a pretty almost shy type of person. So it's hard to get him. I mean, I've interviewed him way back when, and it was fun. He's a great guy. I really like him. But if you want to hear Dave Kemmer talking about iRacing and what goes behind, they probably talked about tire model for 4 hours, would be my guess. I'm not sure how long the show was. 49 minutes. So I'm guessing if Dave is on, 44 of the 49 minutes we're talking about tire model. That would be my guess.
I'm looking forward to listening to it. I did not get just not had a chance to do any of that. But I will give it a listen because I'm always interested what he has to say.
He gets deep.
Very yes, and
I mean,
I like stuff like that. I love the behind the scenes stuff. I find that sometimes the stories behind the development team can be more fascinating than the actual product that they make themselves. So I appreciate stuff like that.
likewise. All right. More iRacing news, Billy.
Yes, more iRacing news. You have, well, you've already covered the 24 hours of Spa. They've just got a little promo doing that. But I wanted to note that we have a new dirt track coming. Oval, Fairbury
Ta-da.
Speedway.
Do you know of it?
I do. If I remember right, this is a fairly short track. Don't quote me on that, but I think this is a short track.
Oh, it looks like a total fairgrounds type track.
Yeah. So this, I think it's one of the ones that people have been asking for. This has been on a lot of people's lists, so this will be fun. We'll have to give it a go because it says it comes out next season. So looking forward to that.
Next season's only like 11 weeks away, 10 weeks away at this point.
No, only, man, this time is flying by.
Keeps cranking out. The other thing about that 24, of course, me and the Rick Motec SImpit endurance team will be running from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. Sunday, starting tomorrow morning in the 24-hour. We probably are not going to be in the same split, I'm guessing, as Team Redline PRT, they're calling it, with Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Max Benecke, who's like one of the best, and Max Wenig, who I'm not, that's a new name to me. I'm sure he's quite accomplished if he's running at Redline, in one car. But anyway, Verstappen and Norris are sharing a car in the 24-hour. That's kind of cool. And then the other one is a superstar team as well. Ben Cornett, Gregor Hutu, Rudy Van Buren, Freak Schothorst, and Ihan Khan Gliven. I don't have. Do I have my? I still don't have a disclaimer. How do I not have a disclaimer? Anyway,
just give an audio disclaimer.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I ruined your name with my poor English pronunciations. I mean that really. It's people's names. It's like almost making fun of somebody not respecting getting their name right. So I'm very sorry about that. Anyway, I will not be in the same. We will not be in the same split as those guys. So I'm sure that one's going to be aired on something big like iRacing Esports Network. Ours will be aired right here at the SImpit.com or SImpit YouTube channel. We'll be airing 24 hours. I'll do it in 4 segments of 6 hours of the whole team, so that should be kind of cool. What else? SimuCube had a little update. Thank you for telling me about it, Jesse. Just came out today, actually. So SimuCube 2 True Drive 1.0.7. Not a huge update, but anybody using OSW is going to want to take advantage of that as well. And that is pretty much. Oh no! There's one more.
Oh, you got. Shaun's got a special.
I don't
Everybody
feel.
ready? Grab some popcorn.
No, I like. God, I do this every show now. Like I just. if the F1 2019 draft comes up, I lose my mind a little bit.
It's sexy time for Shaun.
So this is the ultimate opposite of participant. I guess this is how it is. Okay, maybe this is the show I finally get over it. So 30 drivers qualified their way, right? You had to go through this whole qualifying thing to be one of the 30 drivers eligible in the draft. Now, just like the NFL draft, not everybody eligible for the draft is drafted, right? I mean, there's only so many spots available. But, well, I'm not sure exactly how it works in the NFL, by the way. Like, if you find some guy who's like a rugby player and you bring him in and import him, like, so they didn't go through the draft process. Like, I don't know what the restrictions are. I think there's a restriction on what kind of contract you can put them on in their introduction year in. Anyway, so Ferrari was there. So now Ferrari's one of the drafting teams. 30 drivers eligible, 10 drivers selected. So 20 guys who went through a lot of effort to be eligible, shunned aside. And I'm not sure if it's right or wrong because of the silly season that went on building up to this. So all of the teams, you had teams dropping drivers, hiring drivers, swapping drivers, all of this going on long before the draft. And then the draft for the 30 new guys comes and 10 are selected. But it like, I guess what I just don't understand the relevance of who's picked and what it really means, you know? Anyway, the one guy I was rooting for, by the way, was Kimmy Larson. And the only reason I say it is because he last year was dropped by his team. And so he went through the qualifying process to re-up and be eligible and was the 8th pick, I believe, by Alfa Romeo. So he's back, and we'll have to keep an eye on him to see if there's some kind of, like, vengeance coming with him, you know, having been dropped.
Some sort of redemption.
Yeah, you know, and I don't think it's not like he's on Alfa Romeo in F1. He's in Codemasters F1 2019. Look out, world! Here comes Alfa Romeo. I don't know. I mean, I'm good friends with Brendan, so I'm not rooting against Brendan, of course. Anyway, at the F1 page, they also have cool pictures because their production, which was our thumbnail of the day, is top notch. I mean, it's kind of a reused set.
Oh yeah,
but it's really, really a fine looking show. They're putting
amount
on.
of effort that's been put into this. By the way, I had a very interesting conversation with somebody that's fairly deep within esports. It came out of nowhere. They happened to see the show when we were talking about it, and they actually sent me a PM. And from what they know from being on the inside, I'm not going to say who it is, but they were it's highly overvalued. They've done a very good job of making it look like things are worth a lot of money.
Right.
And they are
esports is a whole concept.
Yes. And
right.
He says he is bracing for the impact when it finally has the actual market value that it's supposed to, which is not much. So
isn't that something that has to occur for something to have a shot? So like go back in time to the USFL, for example, and somebody bought Herschel Walker. Remember that?
Yes.
Was it Herschel Walker?
Well, I know who you're talking about. I don't know the scenario, but I know who you're talking of.
And it was it was like $112 million when nobody had been paid more than 30 or so. I mean, it was like ridiculous money. But it was like the only chance that league had was by doing everything they could to overvalue and overinflate the league in terms of importance, marketing opportunity.
Okay. And
that included the likes of buying enough names that the league couldn't support. The ticket sales weren't there to justify that kind of contract. So to an extent, in order to create, I mean, like, look at Formula E. Formula E is dumping a lot more money into that series than they're incoming on merchandise sales and ticket sales for the events, per se.
Mm-hmm.
But I always called it feeding the tip jar. Like, you know, you can't just put a jar on the counter that is empty.
You always got to put a little in there so people get the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and so some of this overinflation, I believe, is an investment in the future by all the companies involved in it, crossing their fingers that it catches and that someday it'll be able to fill in its value. Will it happen? Now, the other way of looking at it in a real estate terms would be calling it the bubble burst, right? And will that timeline... He was
definitely, yeah. I told him I wouldn't mention his name, but he was okay that I shared the information. I just didn't want me to say who it was. But, and by the way, this is not corroborated by a second source. I didn't get all journalistic on it, but he was just saying that it is overvalued. He hopes that it does, when the bubble bursts, it doesn't completely wipe everything out. I asked him if he was familiar with the sim, you know, like F1 and GT Sport, and he said he was a little familiar with it. He wasn't super familiar with it, so he doesn't know what kind of an effect it'll have on that. But definitely in other areas, you know, you have people owning esports teams that are big names, and there's a lot of money being thrown around, and it's, I see that it's, it's a way to try to drive investment dollars into, and it has. But what he was saying is, at some point there needs to be a return on investment, an ROI, and he's not so sure that's happening from what he's seeing, at least. So it was just an interesting conversation that we had.
And it's what we've talked about and speculated for every day. We talk about this all the time. And it's affecting our world right now, right? Like, was F1 2019 rushed to production in order to accommodate the esport series? Like, would they have taken another couple months to get things right had it not been for that? They released it earlier than ever, and they patted themselves on the back. And I agree, because it was always a late title. Like, it always came out after the season was, like, practically over.
Right.
And then if it dies, esport, or changes significantly, will that then ripple back into our Sims again?
Right, and that's the thing we talked about is, how impervious are we to, as the sim racing part of it, how impervious are we? Because we have a different financial backing. It's not like Doritos, for lack of a better sponsor, but Doritos investing and Coca-Cola investing. We're getting manufacturers investing into it, so that may not have the same effect,
right?
Because there might be something a little more tangible to that.
Yep,
so it'll just be interesting. If it levels out but my bigger worry is it may not hit us as hard if it bursts.
Right.
Not that it will, but if it does burst, there may be some sort of a trickle down effect that could persuade developers in the future from not heavily investing so much into the esports side of things. So it's
right.
They're still part of the gaming sphere.
Yep. And like you said, we're a little more protected. Like, if you looked at, like, so here's esport as a whole, and we are 10%. Let's say that esport took a 50% hit and became this much. We might only take a 5 or 10% hit because of, it's like in craps when you can, back your bet. It's like, it's we have backing on our bet that they don't have.
Right.
So one other thing, and why, when I guess let me point out one more thing on the draft and where my head is still trying to wrap my head around this. So Ferrari, the new team, every team can have 3 drivers. Well, they had nobody, right? They're the new team on the block. They drafted 1 driver, David Toniza. Let me confirm he was drafted yesterday. David Toniza was the first pick, yes. And he's an Italian. Makes sense that Ferrari would pick an Italian, by the way.
Nice.
Of all the teams that are going to play that kind of favoritism, Ferrari's going to do everything they can. And they're like, how did we not get Benito? Okay, so Mercedes had Brendan Lay and Daniel Shields from last year. Last season. I think they picked up Daniel Shields just now. Yeah, they just picked him up. So they had let everybody go, and they had kept Brendan, drafted another guy. But my point here is Ferrari has nobody. They drafted 1 driver. Where's Ferrari, who's the last team to join, by the way? Where do they think they're going to scoop up their other 2 drivers, if not through the sanctioned draft to pick the 30 best F1 2019 drivers on planet Earth? Like, what does Ferrari know that everybody else doesn't know? They can't pilfage from existing teams. So that's where it's like, well, wait. And then Williams is the same thing. So Williams, they drop everybody because they just have Isaac Price. Now, when I look at what I'd like to see, I'll use McLaren as my example. McLaren. I love McLaren because of their sim racing effort. Their drivers Enzo Benito, Bono Hui, and it used to be Ollie Pakala. Now, Ollie wasn't used much. He was their alternate, right? And it was pretty much the Enzo and Bono show, except for a couple events. Well, they dropped Ollie, apparently, and then yesterday picked up Allard van der Wal. And it's like, well, cool. That is the spirit of the way you have laid it out to me.
Right. It would be nice. It would be nice if they communicated a little better how this all works. So I would like to see them, just like you said, look, you have your drivers for this season. When it comes to next season, you have the option of getting rid of your drivers, but then you have to go back into the draft. You can't just, this person, I guess you can, because then it would be kind of like real life. They're not necessarily going into a draft. They're like, okay, you're dropping from this team. You come race for us now. So I guess it just depends on the communication level and what they're trying to go for. I like the idea of a draft better because it's a little more exciting.
Yeah.
Because the team that wanted to get a certain driver may not get the driver that they wanted, and based upon their ranking from last year or whatever, it's just maybe like the NFL or something. Who gets to go first? I like that idea more, which makes them be a little bit more strategic about if they're actually going to let somebody go and let them enter back in the draft. Number one, I think, and I don't know how this works because it's a little confusing. I would like to see, to make sure that drivers that were in a team the year prior automatically, if they get released, they go back into the draft for that year.
Right.
And then you have a handful of outsiders that have qualified and bring those people into the draft as well. And then any team that drops a driver, depending on your ranking from the year prior, is where you are seated in picking your
Yes.
replacement driver
Yes.
from the draft. That's
Yes.
what I'd like to see, because I think that would be more exciting than Ferrari doing some, back and forth deals to grab two other drivers that were never in the draft.
Right.
And I don't know.
Which
I
they
would
have to
like,
be doing. I mean, right now they don't even have a grid.
yeah.
They have half a grid right now, and 20 dudes.
Devin says not even the organizers understand their drafting process. It's confusing. It's way more difficult than it should be.
Mm-hmm. Spatial Herschel Walker was signed to the USL. He was the big signing. Him and Doug Flutie were the two big signings by the end. Yeah, Doug Flutie, the littlest quarterback to ever be. He was so small. Anyway, congratulations to the 10 guys who did get picked up. David Toniza, where's my disclaimer? Sorry. Simon Weigang, Floris Weigers, Isaac Price, Nicholas Langer, Lucas Blakely, Alert Vanderwall, Kimmy Larson, Manuel Bioncholila. Oh, how come Ferrari didn't get him? And Daniel Shields were the 10 who did get selected. With, again, Kimmy Larson, he's going to be my dark horse pick for the season. I think he's going to have some things to prove to some people. I just love the way that kind of works. I love the way those kind of things work. Like I talked about it at Hot Lap Pump Day, right? I need to step up my game. I'm embarrassing myself here. I need to represent better. And by the way, thank you to the pit crew, because it wasn't just Grunnell who was in the final with me. So we had two SImpit drivers in the final. But like everybody, the whole gang showed up and everybody was fast. The SImpit rocked it at Le Mans. Surprise, surprise, because we did run an endurance race there. We're all kind of ready. It was like, step away from the Ferrari GTE and into the Cadillac, which is a little tougher, but basically the same ride, or similar ride. So that was
I expect
a lot of fun.
nothing less.
So I have this idea. Why don't we do something a little different before we get into today's? You want to hear a rant? You think you heard a rant? Get ready for my big topic of the day. I don't know what Billy has on his mind, but I got a loaded gun for today.
I'm a blank slate today.
All right. Well, I've got this covered because I think this is something that might get some comments from the people out there. You might have an opinion on, and as you can hear, I have an opinion on. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a small, proper break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes, and we're going to get into mine and Billy's thoughts. So how's that work for you, Billy?
Sure. I'll take a nap.
I'll refill my coffee. I'll go to the bathroom, but we'll do it proper. And you guys talk amongst yourself. We have the chat going. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Welcome back to Beyond the Sim. Happy Friday, everybody out there. And now we're to the portion of the show where we just like to bring up various topics, things that occur to me or Billy about sim racing life in general or racing life in general. And of course, if you guys ever have things that you think we should bring up for discussion, where you're going to get my thoughts, you're going to get Billy's thoughts, and we're going to open it up to you guys to get opinionated as well. But be sure to send them to me at Shaun at SImpit.com, and we'd love to bring your ideas to the show as well. But here's one thing that kind of occurred to me over the last few days. And here I am you don't like to use the word journalist or reviewer, right? But here I am, a reviewer. And I love to give my thoughts on what's right and wrong about various sims. And I was thinking about sim racers, and we have the best peripherals, like when it comes to gaming. Like, to an extent, we're the only ones who even have peripherals. And we have a lot of things to choose from. There are a lot of really good sims and a lot of really good driving games and a lot of choices to be made. And I find, and here's my point, I'm gonna make it simple. Are sim racers the biggest bitches in all of racing? And the reason I say this, and what brought this to my attention, was how much people bitch and bitch and bitch in sim racing. And you see it in the forums, you see it in the comments of YouTubers. People bitch non-stop about every angle, every aspect of this. And right now I'm going to single out one in particular on track incidents. Like, people act as though somehow in our world of sim racing that we would not have any contact whatsoever. Nobody would ever be at fault, or it's of course the other guy's fault. And I'm just thinking, I watch racing every weekend, and I watch all sorts of racing from Moto GP to Dakar to Formula One, and no matter what I watch, inevitably there is at least one crash. Crashing is synonymous with racing. And yet when these guys are doing it on the weekend and I'm watching, this is their livelihood on, number one, they can die, they can be harmed. Number two, their careers could be ended in terms of through tragedy or because they're just not bringing home results, they're caught up in crashes. It could be a huge financial cost if they're any kind of a privateer. And yes, I'm sure they bitch and yell and scream at their crew chief, and sometimes there's a little bit of spillover into the pits, but I'm fascinated at how little that actually even happens. And yet, in the sim racing world, someone will write a 10-page, outrage over a single incident that happened on track, and then just not even let it go. And you hear it on the audio, you see it in the forums, and it's just like, wow, we can just reset and race again. He took you out on the 7 o'clock, big deal, go run the 8 o'clock. You didn't lose a sponsor, you didn't lose any money, you didn't lose anything. And anyway, I think we complain so easily, and here I am ranting
Shaun,
on a complaint.
Prevented me from being number one, the lowest split possible.
Oh, I'm so sorry I did that to you. I'm such a bully. But so now, am I being too sensitive? I ask you, and maybe even and I just gave one direction the way we bitch about on-track contact. And I'm not saying things don't go wrong. I'm just thinking, wow, in real life, people don't take it as seriously as we take sim racing, and we always have the inevitable reset button. And then we also complain about our games a lot. Even I do, I was watching my brother playing Just Cause 4, I think it is. And it's like this total Grand Theft Auto shooter copycat kind of thing with stuntmans and mercenaries. I can't figure out what he's doing. But I'm watching the clunkiness of this game and like how inadequate it does like so many things in the game. And it's a really good game. He's enjoying the heck out of it. But I'm watching it going, wow, we bitch about a tire temp not being right, and he's playing this clunky game that like nothing works right as far as I see, and I'm like, wow, we are so prone to complaining and bitching about our industry across the board. Anyway, what do you think? Am I crazy?
Boy, that's an interesting line to walk, because having raced in real life and having gotten in actual conflicts with people, I can tell you that I never forget that. Like, that always stays.
Right.
Not unless, I think the only time that gets erased is if they show me some respect on the track later, then I'll let it go. But until that happens, I'm like, I got one for you.
Right.
Um,
Like your infraction will be remembered, but if you give me something,
well, yeah, just
like
all I want is somebody to race me clean, and when I don't feel like that's happened, that's when I get irritated. And the same thing goes for sim racing. So I don't tend to get, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to sim racing. The fact that I don't tend to get too worked up about that. I get worked up about technical issues. That fries me. But the actual racing, like, yes, it can be disappointing, but I don't think I've ever like sought somebody out and say, how dare you take me out? Or, I can't remember a time. Can't remember a time I've ever done that, but it might have happened. I don't know. So
there are people who stalk people because of an infraction.
Yeah, that's the part where it goes, I hate voice chat unless I know the people that I'm running with. So I turn off voice chat for that reason, because one guy will start crying at the other guy. And, we talked about it, I think it was last week. Half the time they're flipping wrong about whose right it was anyways, of, who had position and who took who out. Half the time they're wrong anyways.
How many times have you heard somebody in chat on iRacing, and specifically a bitch about a problem, and from both sides, both pointing fingers, and then 10 minutes later, like you're racing green, and then one of the voices will come back, oh yeah, I just watched the replay, yeah, I guess I did kind of come down on you. It's like, dude, you were mouthing off for like 20 minutes, and now you watch the replay and you're like, oh yeah, I guess that wasn't, yeah.
To be fair, at least they came back and apologized.
I've done this, by the way. I've done that. All right, sorry, I'm out of control.
I think there's limits. So with like the F1 2019 video I did, even though I listed positive things, I had a lot of people upset with me. I was a hater. I was so negative. There were people, it's so funny. I laugh because people are saying things that I never said in the video. Literally, saying, yo, you're complaining about the graphics. I'm all, did you watch the same video? I said the graphics were nice. But so there is a line, I think, that is drawn between fair criticism and hate, and just being ridiculous. I think the ridiculous part is where we get into these squabbles like it's real life racing. And I get it. For somebody that hasn't raced in the real world, this is as close as they're going to get. So they get really invested. They put all this time, effort, and money in. Like, I understand that, but you still can't forget you're playing a game. You crashing might have cost you a little bit of time, and I understand that. It can be disappointing, but how about you back up and realize, look, if I was racing a real car, there would be no, I get to go race in another hour.
Right.
So for me, it's hard to take that stuff so seriously, but I can understand in turn somebody that hasn't been on the track in real life. I can understand why they would get that upset. I don't think it's warranted, but I can understand it. Does that make sense?
Sure.
When it comes to getting irritated about, I would criticize a title for not having an accurate representation now of a track. I won't go over the top about it because to me, I want it to be realistic, but you know, everybody's driving the same thing. It's kind of like, okay, whatever. It's unfortunate that it's not accurate, but I think that is a fair criticism. I don't think that's a necessarily being negative just to be negative or being a bitch about, you know, oh, you're complaining for no good reason. Go outside. There's so many other things to complain about. Like, that's not relevant because you spent your money on it. It is relevant to you.
Right.
So it just depends on what we're talking about. You know, I agree about the driving aspect of it. I think that you should be having a good time driving. And if you're not, my opinion, you're doing it wrong. I mean, seriously, if you don't like it, then don't, you know, find something else that you enjoy. I don't understand punishing yourself
Right. Yeah.
for no reason.
Yeah, there are only two things in life you should be subjected to that. Like, if you didn't like school, but you had to until you were 18, so be it, right? And then after that, if you have to work and you don't like it, you know, well, tough, you know, that's the way life is. You got to work. You know, other than that, everything we do is by choice, you know, there's really not an excuse for doing something that you don't enjoy thoroughly. And in fact, if you're not, you know what? You probably need a break. You know, you probably need.
Right. Look, you don't have to be up sim racing's ass. You can go outside and do something else. Like, you know, if it's upsetting you that much that you're, I don't know. To me, it's not the same. And again, I think it's because maybe I raced in the real world. And so and it's not that I'm better. I'm just saying my perspective is different. So I don't get the, you know, throwing the headphones when somebody takes you out in turn one. Like, yeah, be upset. You can be upset about it without going aggro.
Right.
And just go, maybe this is not what I feel like doing right now. You know, just walk away. I don't know.
In Lemons racing, you're supposed to apologize with beer in hand, by the way.
There you go.
Like, you know, and you're not allowed to drink beer until it's all over, of course. But I mean, yeah, like I remember one time I was crewing with the Chodas team, and somebody had hit us, and that guy came over, super apologizing with like 2 cases of beer. You know, and
nice.
Yeah, it was
that's funny.
Yeah, it's
hard to be mad. I've always owned my mistakes and apologize, even when it may not totally have been my fault. I just, hey, man, sorry. I mean, I can't tell you. I've walked with my tail between my legs. I remember I was leading a race and we had motor problems at Placerville and spun out going into 1 and 2 and collected another guy with me. And after the race, I walked over. I said, car died going into 1. I had no control at that point. You know, it just locked up the tires and spun. And I said, I'm sorry that I, you know, ruined your race. You know, because I genuinely felt bad for doing that.
Yep.
Likewise, I've had people drive right over my front end and never say a word to me, but I don't find them the next race that they're in with me and walk over. I remember the last time I raced with you and you did this to me. Like, it's, you know, I'm not gonna let words show you how I feel. I'm gonna let you know how I feel while we're racing.
Sure. Yeah, he won't get an inch. You know, in fact, you might even take an inch. you know. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. By the way, thank you. I'm not sure how that's possible either, but thank you.
It's because I shaved. It made you look more youthful.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you, Billy.
It's not even a clean shave anymore.
I find that I apologize before I even know if I was at fault, because unless I was rear-ended, I assume that I am at least part to blame. Like, even if it was 90% their fault, I was still 10%. And I think it was a mirror. We were doing something. It might have been I can't remember what we were doing, but I just completely crossed his bow one day. You know, and it was like we were in a pretty good fight. He got a little inside. I knew I should have left just a little bit of room. Like, I knew if I turned that there'd be a chance for contact. But I was just sort of like, and I just did it anyway, and I totally took him out. And it was like, oh, I knew I was to blame. And at the same time, well, I think I still had position, perhaps, right? By our argument. Like, I never saw
Sure.
a portion of his car. So protect yourself. But I still would like to apologize in those moments. If I get rear-ended, that's a little different, unless I, hit the brakes early or something silly.
I
Or
was gonna say you apologize in a rear ender.
no, or if you get off miss a shift and you get rear-ended.
Sure.
I look younger due to push-ups. I need to do a lot more push-ups then, for sure. Tom Jones, never apologize. Double down.
I'm right no matter what.
How
So,
dare
I would
you
like
do
to
that?
I would like. I mean, when we had the store for slot car stuff, we emphasized the camaraderie part and the everybody having fun. And when somebody stepped out of line, which was very rare, but it did happen, myself or my dad would walk over there and say, "Hey, know you're frustrated, but this is meant to be fun. So just relax." Like, and usually everybody's was pretty good about it. The funny thing was when somebody would knock somebody else out, they were like, "Oh, did I do that?" And you're like, how could you not tell that you did that? Because the rule was if you knocked somebody out, you had to wait. You had to wait for them. Their car got put back on the track, and then you waited for them, and then you guys went back to racing. But I swear half the time they're like, "Oh, I don't know how his car flew off the track when I was right next to it, and the back end of my car went completely 90 degrees. I don't know." It's like, hey, okay, come on now. Slow down. But that environment, I've always treated sim racing the same way. Like we should be having fun. Yes, it can be frustrating, but yeah, I mean, we should be having fun doing this. We're not. I sure as heck am not getting paid for this. So,
At what? I mean, like, when you look at an iRacing and people let this spill over into the chat, at some point, should the room be telling these people, "Hey, shut up! Like, we're racing here. At least one of you is in pit lane as you sit here, arguing over who did what and who." And should iRacing chat be disabled entirely, or is there enough benefit to that it just needs to be used properly?
the only time I ever find that a benefit is on a super speedway. That's the only time I ever have that thing active. Otherwise, it is off. And somebody whining and complaining, or somebody will just start trying to crack jokes, or like, I don't want to hear you. I do not. So I just disable it.
At what point should a league step in to squash what might become out of control or becomes a big flare-up between drivers? And this is an interesting line that real-life series have to walk, too. NASCAR is pretty committed to not making a call, right? I mean, I think that's, if anything, they're accused of not passing judgment in moments of conflict. Mm-hmm. Formula One might have a situation brewing. I don't know, but from what I've been watching, I'm wondering if there isn't something in Formula One about to take an interesting turn on track. We'll see. But, you talk about giving an inch. I'm wondering if there is 0 inches left to be given in Formula One for the rest of the season. And will Formula One at some point have to get between drivers and things going on? And the same thing in the sim racing world. It's like, well, we run our truck series. I'm the admin. We have a really cool group of guys, so we really never have issues. But at some point, you could have something that becomes unsolvable grievance,
Oh, Dan,
thank you very much.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you very much.
I like seeing Dan still hanging around.
Still in for the chat. Where's my little thingy?
No.
That didn't sound right.
Whoa. You might want to get some pills for enhancement for that. So at what
there
point,
we go. There we go.
Okay. At what point should you step in? I think if people are having a reasonable conversation where name calling isn't being thrown around, people aren't yelling at each other, I think that's fine to let them discuss it. I would prefer that they would not discuss that, over the air for everybody.
Publicly.
I would prefer that you do that. Yeah. Do it in chat between just the two of you, what have you. I look at it as, I don't mind some bumps. I don't mind, a little back and forth. I think that's all in my opinion, that's all in good fun, as long as you don't spin somebody out, totally damage somebody's car, flip them over, put them in the fence, that kind of thing. I think it's fair game. I don't think that some people get very upset even when you go to make a pass on them. It's like, oh, you made the pass too early. You took away my line. It's like, the door was open. Did we crash? did we end up in a wad? No. So why are you complaining about it? I mean, Formula One drivers, I think even NASCAR drivers tend to do that. Oh man, he's driving crazy. Look, you didn't get in a wreck, you big pussy.
Yeah. Freaking push-ups.
Put on yeah, right. Put on your big pants and keep racing there and show them what for. If it really upsets you that bad,
right.
Like go get them back. Right. I mean, that's what my dad always taught me is.
Right.
So what if they made a dirty pass on you? You allowed them to do that.
Yep.
So It's now on you. Get back after it.
Drivers defend yourselves at all times.
So show them how it's done. Then if you're that much faster than there, then show them how it's done.
Yep. Yeah. Or Dan says just hot lap if you're worried about it, or become a time trial guy or an autocross guy. I mean, that's the beauty thing is in auto racing we actually do have disciplines specifically, leaderboard challenges.
Exactly.
There are disciplines built for the persons who don't have the ability to compete with others, which does take education. I mean, it's like, you go back to childhood, and think of the friends who would throw the Monopoly board across the room because they lost.
Right. Right, sure.
Chances are, unless they learned to change their behavior, they were not going to be suited for competitive type environments. And as much as I want to say we're the worst in the world, if you think we complain or we're bad racers, sim racers, whatever, go surfing and drop in on someone's wave. Because I guarantee you fists will be thrown. It's like they don't even joke. They don't even play around. It's like, dude, you stole my wave. And it's like, what the heck, Yeah, it's really, wow. They'll run you off a beach for stealing someone's wave.
I am super competitive. Like I do genuinely hate losing. But I know a time and a place. So like when we run the truck series, man, I'm going to make Mark and Liam, like I'm going to make those guys, or Climber or you, like just depends on the track and the environment. But anybody up front, I'm going to make them work as hard as I can.
Yeah.
If you're going to beat me, I'm going to make you work.
And
while I hate losing, I enjoy the challenge and the chase and learning at the same point.
Yep.
Because obviously I'm deficient in something. That's why you're beating me. So I need to figure it out. So when I race slot cars, we had my store, and then there was some guys that had their home tracks, and there was a guy in the Bay Area, and there were guys in the Bay Area, they would not come up and race with us because we had home track advantage. I said, well, that's fine. I'll go down and run with you guys. So I go down and run with them, and I won 1 out of 3, and it was like the other 2, I was like, I wasn't mad. I was just like, look, I'm going to make you work for it. I'll figure it out. You may win, but I'm going to make you work hard. And the guy saying that he never wanted to come up and race with us because we had home track advantage, I just kind of went, that doesn't make any sense to me, because if you look like a series like the World of Outlaws, they race at other people's tracks all the time that have thousands of laps there.
Right.
So you're telling me then that the World of Outlaws shouldn't be running at any of these tracks where those cars run already.
Right.
Is that the brain process? Because that's what I did. I ran at my home track, but then I ventured out to other tracks that were running weekly series. I went to learn, to have fun, and make people work and be competitive. And if I had a shot to win, then I had a shot to win.
Right.
I don't understand the mindset of just like throwing in the towel and just going like, okay, well, I don't want to do this. You know, if you don't enjoy driving the car, that's a completely different story. Like if you're not having fun with the car in general, then I get it. But if you're running and you just, I don't know, I look at it a little different. I want to win, but I also want a good race. And if I can have a good race, if I can learn something, then I'm enjoying myself. So
I think we need sim racing grudge matches where you take it to VR boxing.
Devin, it's incredibly more difficult than you would realize. I taught people how to drive them. It's not as it is nowhere as easy as you think, because a lot of people would come in and go, "Oh, how hard is it?" And then they'd fly off the track at every corner, like they couldn't.
When I
couldn't do it.
When I worked at Russell Racing at Sonoma, Sears Point, whatever you want to call that track now, Infineon. No, it's not even Infineon now. It's Napa Valley Raceway or something. I don't know. When I used to work there at Jim Russell, when IMSA came to town, a bunch of teams hired the instructors from Russell to be fill-in drivers for the teams, because even though they weren't the regular IMSA level driver, they were going to be better than their guy on that nasty track, because they were basically ringers of the track. They knew everything about the track, all the little spots, all the little nuances, and you would see them be the ringers because, again, home field advantage. It's huge. I would imagine if you played baseball and in Boston, knowing how to play with the green monster is part of the game. When you when you hit a big old, if you're a right-handed guy and you hit a big old hit, big fly, you don't stand there watching it because that ain't leaving the place. So you better get your hustle on. So home field advantage is a big deal in real life racing. That in sim racing, I don't think you see that, other than some people just have their tracks that they're better at. You could call it their home track.
Right. Yep.
I tend to be pretty good at Long Beach. What do you know? Funny enough, it's my home track. I tend to drive Long Beach fairly well. I know and love the track because of it. So it's the track, it's one of 3 or 4 tracks that I, watched hundreds of hours of racing in real life, over the
there's
years.
a difference, in how you learn how to drive versus, so in other words, home field advantage only works to a certain extent, because there will be those people that they've learned other things along the way that lets them adapt very quickly to that environment. And then there is no more home field advantage per se. I mean, that's kind of my, alluding to the slot car thing. If you didn't learn how to drive a certain way, which is how we taught our drivers how to drive, our drivers could go anywhere and be competitive because of the way we taught them how to learn how to drive the track.
Right.
Where other people, if they get caught up in driving a certain way, they can't adapt going to another track. It's you have some people that have a knack for just understanding very quick and adapting. And then you have other people that it takes a heck of a lot longer to understand how to get around, your sim racing. And I go from this car to this car, this car to this car, go to this track to this track. Some people they don't want to do that because it's unsettling, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's just, I'm not built that way. I know my place, like in prototypes, like the P1 cars, the LMP1 cars. I'm not good. I'm not good at those. I mean, I might tool around with them, but I'm not good. And I just don't have a desire to learn those cars. But hey, let's go race some, stock cars or trucks, or, one of those in iRacing, or go run a GT3 that I like from another sim. It's like, I may not be the best, but I'm going to try.
Sure. When it gets back to what you're saying, it's like, well, you have to enjoy yourself, right? There's no point in,
right.
Not all disciplines are the same. Tim, Mr. Stick Shift, I'm assuming that Tim doesn't like anything too modern because they would have removed the stick shift from the car. In the same time, I really like drive cars that are kind of nasty and difficult to drive. And That's why I always liked like Group C in that, late 80s era, because everything was like just massive horsepower, decent amount of mechanical grip, not so much aero grip just yet. And so, they were really crazy fun to drive cars, or even like I think back to like the old Ford Escort when it was like a beast of a car, whether it's a rally or tarmac version. But I had one other point that I wanted to make. Oh, getting back to what you're saying about home field advantage and like being really good at, the guys who are really seasoned can go to a track that they've never been to and recognize all of the different types of corners. First of all, they're like, oh, okay, well, there's my late apex corner, there's my early apex corner. Oh, there's the one that I turn two corners into one, and they recognize these things from other tracks that have had similarities.
Exactly.
One thing I always say, if you're struggling at a track, like you're putting in a month's practice for Spa and struggling, well, sometimes it might be good to take that same car to a completely different track, because all of a sudden it might change your focus on the way you're driving to a different way of driving. So I'll use Silverstone as an example, not because it's my favorite track on planet Earth, not for that reason, but for a different reason. Silverstone forces you to explore going into a corner without touching the brake. Like, how much can I throttle oversteer this car to make it turn at the highest speed possible? And doing that and focusing on that, because there's like 2 or 3 corners that kind of make you really start playing with some rear end steering and how much can I push. And then you go back to Spa, and all of a sudden, that double left-hander that's really tricky.
Sure.
All of a sudden you're like, you know what? I've been driving this way too much with the front end, and I need to really control the rear end and drive. And I'm not saying go do that at Spa, by the way. I'm just using this as a quick example.
Right.
But by going to a different, or even a different discipline, maybe you're having a hard time with that same corner at Spa, but you go do a session in the dirt trucks of all things. But you find that 180-degree turn that makes you just really play with grip and throttle. And then you go back and you're like, after driving that truck, this is easy. And it's like, so again, when those people who can learn a track really quickly, a lot of the cases it's countless miles and different scenarios that allow them to just pick these up so quickly.
And that goes back to what I always claim about, you cannot turn endless laps in practice. You need to go race.
Yes.
Because the more you put yourself in those situations, the better prepared you're going to be.
Yep.
That's no different than getting the experience in different disciplines and understanding. I mean, after racing the dirt, the sprint cars, and then going to road racing, I had no problem with it getting sideways. My issue then was just to calm myself down and try not to do so much of that, because I eat the tires. But that was much easier to do versus not understanding where the edge of traction is and how to balance the car. So you need to put yourself in those situations, and all of those things are good to, it all goes in a data bank, and you draw from those things. And if you're not, then you're not paying attention. You're what I would tell people at the slot car store, you're not actively learning. You're not actively paying attention to what you're doing. You're just mindlessly going around and not understanding really what's going on.
Reactionary driving.
You need to understand. Like, it sounds funny. I log when I drive, as far as, did I make a mistake? Why did I make the mistake? Maybe, and you guys probably see it when we do the truck race. Sometimes I'm trying all kinds of stuff around the track because, okay, somebody's a little faster, or maybe I found something, like, where do I go? And that's the dirt track part of me, always searching for the best line. Sometimes it bites me in the rear. Sometimes, it works well.
Right. Yep.
But that's part of my background. So the more things you can drive and get at least a decent understanding, it all helps you in the end.
Yep. I agree. Yeah. And Heiko mentioning, rally car is going to help your driving across the board. So even if you're not a huge fan of rally car, a car that forces you to deal with so much oversteer and so much throttle control and so much braking control, that if you just can drive a rally car decently, you are going to constantly be learning skills that are going to help you in every type of racing. Just because it makes you do it so fast and so often, it's like the worst case scenario, in that respect. So yeah, I'm not sure how we got down that long tangent off of anger, but yeah.
Well, we brought it back to a more centralized, better, more calm space.
A more beneficial place, which I
There
think
you
is
go.
important for both of us. I don't want to leave people with a bummer.
Right? And end on a high note.
So, what do you have going on? What's coming up for you?
I'm trying to get I'm about halfway through the WTCR video. And then if I don't have anything after that to do, I'll finally get to tackle Dakar 18 and just see what kind of a show it puts on, and we'll reconvene after that. Other than that, I don't know. I got to do something.
Gotta do something.
I've always got to do something.
All right. Let's see. Tonight we have the truck race. This is the makeup race at Texas. So this is gonna be the final race of the truck season. And then I haven't put anything on the calendar yet, but I want to. I think we're gonna take a little cool down, and then we're gonna come back with some dirt trucks, maybe in like a month or so. So I'll keep everyone posted on that.
Nice.
But it should be fun. Tonight will be kind of, if you haven't joined us yet, join us on the SImpit Truck Series. Tonight will be the finale. Lots of room at Texas. It'll be a good night to come out. We just do quick, easy, well, not quick seasons. We do 6 weeks over, like 6 races over 12 weeks. I don't know. We take our time with it and have fun. Great group of people. We do use chat because the chat is actually usually pretty beneficial and not too much of a distraction. And everybody's there.
Agreed.
So, Brad, next patron race, I've been kind of holding out like we were talking about with Billy's band. I was doing a few too many. When I started doing them every month, I noticed that all of a sudden we were down to like 11 people for the last one. So I was like, well, that's not a lot of turnout. So we're going to have to get something on the calendar for that as well. Maybe come up with something special and different. I have to still conquer. I haven't conquered my server issues is the next battle that the SImpit wants to. I'd like to have a server running so that when we brought up trucks, FIA,
That would be cool.
I want to be able to just load it up and host. I have a huge cable bandwidth pipe, whatever you want to call it. And
I mean, wow.
Yeah, so This show today, this Friday, mark this day, we went from my little thingy to my big giant pipe.
It grew during the show. That's awesome.
In addition to that, tomorrow, 6 a.m., we have the endurance race. So tonight I'm going to stream the truck race. I'm going to do picture-in-picture and green screen. Throwing everything at my machinery here.
Nice.
Yeah, we're throwing everything at tonight's race. So it could be a train wreck of a stream. Who knows? That always makes it more fun. And then tomorrow will be very dry and clinical, but it'll be 24 hours of spa. And I can't even think beyond that. I've got 2 wheel stand reviews I'm working on. I've got the Ferrari headphones that people have been asking for, and I've just been kind of like keep putting it on the back burner. So lots going on here, but
nice.
Yeah, should be a good, exciting week and give us lots to talk about next week.
Yeah, don't forget, we do have an audio version in case, can't catch us live. If you want to just do audio only, catch us on the go. Apple Podcast, Stitcher, what else? SoundCloud. David, thank you so much.
David, bringing on the pain. Thank you very much, buddy. Also, people, in case you didn't notice, this is the Cole Trickle shirt.
Fantastic.
I have to wear this for a month starting on the 19th of July. So
nice.
This shirt is going to stink. I'm wondering, should I make it the 30-day shirt challenge where I don't wash it?
I am glad you are nowhere near me.
We'll see if it stands up on its own by the end. But anyway, this is the Joa Antonio Cole Trickle special. So congratulations to Joa on winning that meme contest a while ago. But I did finally get the shirt in and got that going. And I think that's it for me. Is that it for you, Billy?
That is it for me. I think I'm gonna I'm gonna go take a nap. 3.5 hours of sleep is I'm not as young as I used to be.
I hear you. Well deserved nap. All right, right on. Well, get out there, everyone. Do some racing. Have some fun. Have a great weekend. And we'll be back next week with the 31st. This was the 30th edition of Beyond the Sim. 31st edition. Find them all on SoundCloud. Check out Billy Strange Racing on YouTube. You can find his thoughts on Euro Truck Racing Championship. And more coming from him as well as here at the SImpit. Be sure to thumbs up if you liked it. Thumbs down if you hated it. Subscribe, tell a friend, do all those good things, but get out there and do some racing.
Well, either way.
This is Beyond the Sim. I'm Shaun Cole. That's Billy Strange. And we will see you on the track.
See you guys later.